Welcome to Mini Pod episode 79. This is me, Dave Jacobs. I want to do something a little different this time. I want to share with you an experience that I had last Sunday, which of course was Pentecost Sunday, when I went to visit a local church here in town. And I'm just going to read to you what I wrote in my journal the next morning. Here we go. I was pleased to have visited the Methodist church in town. It wasn't unpleasant. One man at the door was, I'm assuming, there to greet and hand out bulletins, but was busy talking to a friend, so I walked past him and spotted a stack of bulletins and took one for myself. Now, one woman did a really good job of welcoming me. She seemed very warm and sincere. I felt awkward and self-conscious being by myself, but I tried not to look so. Then there was the meet and greet time that makes me cringe. I turned around to greet those behind me. Now, I was tempted to wait to see if they would tap me on the shoulder, but that felt like I was being passive-aggressive, so I decided to take the first step, and when that was done, I turned around, remained standing, waiting to be approached, felt stupid, and sat back down. A meet and greet time must be one of the most insensitive things a church could do, particularly in regards to guests. I say let the regulars greet each other before and after. Train the regulars to greet the guests before and after the service, but throw the meet and greet thing out unless you really don't care about how you make guests feel. Now, although I didn't have to use the restroom, I noticed that there was no indication of where they were. The only place they could have been were down this hall to the right of the podium, which would have meant that if I was desperate, I would need to get up and take this walk of shame in front of everyone with a sign pinned to my back saying, I have to pee. Now, their regular pastor was out of town, so they had a guest speaker, a Presbyterian from a nearby church. Seemed like a pleasant fellow, but I couldn't figure out for the life of me what his sermon had to do with Pentecost. I'm sure he felt that it did. I apparently missed it. Now, when the service had concluded, I was not clear, that the service had concluded. And I didn't determine this until I looked behind me to see people standing up and leaving, at which time I stood up and ran for the door. Not really. At the door was the same greeter blocking the door while talking to another friend. I said, "Excuse me," and walked between the two of them, at which time the greeter smiled and thanked me for coming. I'm sorry to say that I felt relieved to make it through the parking lot and get back into my truck. Now, on a more positive note, as I said earlier, it was not entirely unpleasant. The woodwork in the sanctuary was wonderful and filled with beautiful stained glass windows. At one moment of boredom, I found myself studying the windows and even wishing I could have simply stood in front of them and received from their magnificence. But the polite thing was to try and re-engage with the sermon, which I did, or tried to while suppressing the question going through my head, now do I want to pick up lunch on the way home or wait? Easily the most positive experience was the original lady who came over to greet me before the service began. She was great at greeting. That's all for now. This is Dave Jacobs of Small Church Pastor. Subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, tell your friend, and I'll talk to you next week.